What if one book held the answers to everything humanity has ever asked? Where did we come from? What is the purpose of life, and where are we going? Imagine a text so vast, so mysterious, that it claims to reveal the structure of the universe, the hierarchy of celestial beings, and even the true nature of God Himself. This isn't fiction. This is the enigma of the Urantia book, a manuscript that blurs the lines between revelation and imagination, between divine message and human myth. Throughout history, books have been born from the minds of philosophers, prophets, and visionaries, expressions of belief, curiosity, and the drive to understand the unknown. But then once in a generation, there comes a text that feels otherworldly, a book that seems to emerge not from within us, but from something far beyond, a message perhaps from the stars. The Urantia book belongs to that rare category. Its origin is as strange as its content, said to be dictated, not written by higher intelligences from dimensions beyond our comprehension. This book has fascinated and confounded scholars, spiritual seekers, and esoteric thinkers for nearly a century. But what is it exactly that makes the Urantia book so controversial, so captivating? Who or what authored it? And could it truly hold the key to unlocking the mysteries of existence? To understand, we must travel back in time to Chicago in the 1920s. At the center of this story is Dr. William Sadler, a respected psychiatrist with a keen interest in both science and the paranormal. One day, he encounters a case unlike anything he's ever seen. A patient whose identity remains anonymous to this day begins to speak in his sleep fluently, eloquently, and with profound insight into topics far beyond his education or conscious awareness. In these trances, the man discusses cosmology, theology, spiritual hierarchies, and interdimensional realities with astonishing depth. Sadler, initially skeptical of all things mystical, finds himself intrigued. How could someone with no formal training articulate such intricate ideas? And stranger still, the man would wake with no memory of what he had said. As the sessions continue, the content becomes increasingly organized, almost as if someone or something is composing chapters of a cosmic textbook through this unconscious speaker. Fascinated Sadler forms a private study group made up of intellectual scientists and trusted friends. They begin documenting the sessions, compiling notes, and posing questions to these mysterious voices. This group would later be known as the Urantia Forum. Over time, the voices begin identifying themselves not as human personalities but as celestial beings, messengers, administrators of a vast spiritual universe. They claim to belong to a cosmic hierarchy, beings tasked with guiding intelligent life across time and space. Skeptics have long debated what was really happening. Was this a case of automatic writing, a deeply creative mind channeling the collective unconscious, or were these truly messages from higher dimensions? What no one can deny is this: the material kept coming, structured, complex, daring. The pages began to take on the shape of something greater, not just a series of messages, but a unified revelation. And then came the bold claim. The Urantia book was not the product of human imagination at all. It was a spiritual transmission, a deliberate communication from advanced beings who believed humanity was finally ready for a deeper understanding of reality. They weren't just offering new ideas, they were offering a cosmic blueprint, a revelation about the origin of the universe, the multidimensional architecture of creation, the nature of God and the purpose of life, not in symbolic parables, but in detailed descriptions and metaphysical systems. The forum, sensing the magnitude of what they were handling, decided to share the material with the world, but not as a typical spiritual book. This, they believed, was something sacred, something that required reverence. And so, in 1955, the Urantia Foundation was created to publish and protect the manuscript. The finished book is massive, divided into four distinct parts. 1. the nature of God and universal cosmology. 2. The organization and function of inhabited worlds and spiritual beings. 3. The origin, history, and destiny of Urantia, what we call Earth. 4. A profoundly detailed narrative of the life and teachings of Jesus Christ, described not only as a religious figure, but as a divine personality sent to guide an evolving world. The book's complexity is undeniable. Its scientific and philosophical assertions seem, in some cases, to anticipate ideas that science would only begin to understand decades later. And yet, unlike other channeled works such as The Spirit's Book by Allan Kardec or A Course in Miracles, the Urantia book names no author. Not even the original speaker, the patient, was ever officially identified. The mystery deepens. Some theorists have suggested that the book might have been part of a psychological experiment, a collective effort led by Sadler and his circle of thinkers. Could it be that altered states of consciousness can access a hidden reservoir of truth? Carl Jung, with his theories on the collective unconscious, might have said yes. And yet, even that explanation struggles to account for the scope, coherence, and originality of the material. Those who defend its authenticity argue that the depth of the ideas, the precise internal logic, and the rich language are simply too advanced to be the work of untrained minds. To them, the Urantia book is not just literature, it is a revelation. So here lies the paradox. If this is a hoax, it is one of the most elaborate and intellectually consistent deceptions ever written. But if it is real, if the book is indeed what it claims to be, then its implications are staggering. It offers a model of God and the universe that challenges every religious system ever created. Its supporters believe the book contains truths too vast for traditional religion to contain. It presents God not as a distant judge, but as a central force of love, creativity, and evolution intertwined with every atom of the universe. Critics, on the other hand, view it as a compelling fusion of science fiction theology and metaphysics, a brilliant construction but ultimately one born from the human mind. Maybe the real answer isn't in what the book is, but in what it does. It forces us to ask, to seek, to reconsider everything we thought we knew, because the Urantia book doesn't just teach, it disrupts. It shakes the foundation. It dares us to believe that the spiritual universe is far vaster, far more structured, and far more active than we've ever imagined. And as Plato once said, the important thing is not to find the answer, but to ask the question that leads us beyond what we already know. Perhaps the Urantia book isn't a destination, but an invitation. After uncovering the mysterious origins of the Urantia book, the next question naturally arises. What exactly does this book say about the universe we live in? The answer is more astonishing than you might expect. Unlike traditional religious texts steeped in metaphor and dogma, the Urantia book offers something radically different, a vast, intricate, and meticulously detailed cosmology, not poetic allegory, but a kind of spiritual science. It presents a blueprint of the universe so expansive, so complex, that it challenges the very foundation of how we perceive existence. According to this extraordinary work, the universe is not a random chaos, not a cosmic accident. Rather, it is a highly structured and intelligent design, teeming with life, layered with energy, and governed by beings far beyond our current understanding. In the lexicon of the Urantia book, our planet Earth is referred to as Urantia, its true cosmic name, just one tiny point of light within an unimaginably grand evolutionary system. But what is the true nature of this universe? Who rules it? And what, if anything, is humanity's purpose within this majestic design? To even begin to answer, we must do something radical: set aside everything we think we know. We must be willing to see reality through a different lens, one that sees the cosmos not as cold, empty space, but as an unfolding spiritual organism. In its core framework, the Urantia book describes a universe organized into concentric layers. At the center lies Havona, a perfect eternal universe, home to the most divine expressions of existence and the final destination for all souls who evolve toward perfection. Around this radiant center orbit, seven enormous super-universes, each containing billions of inhabited planets and life forms. It is a celestial system operating with mathematical elegance and spiritual intention. We live in one of these Orvonton, the seventh superuniverse. Nestled within Orvonton is the Milky Way galaxy, and within that our humble planet Urantia. But in this cosmic framework, Earth is not an isolated creation. It is part of a vast developmental plan, a long sacred evolution spanning billions of years. This isn't a new concept. Esoteric traditions for millennia have spoken of layered realities and unseen hierarchies. The Gnostics wrote of eons governing divine realms. Hindu cosmology maps out locus and talas planes of existence, both physical and spiritual. But what sets the Urantia book apart is its precision. This isn't vague mysticism. It's described like a cosmic map. And yet, if the universe is so meticulously organized, why does Earth feel like a world of suffering and confusion? The Urantia book doesn't shy away from that question. It offers a bold explanation. Earth is still a young, evolving world, a spiritual nursery, if you will, still maturing, still battling its lower impulses. And more importantly, it's a planet that endured a cosmic disruption. According to the book, hundreds of thousands of years ago, a major spiritual rebellion occurred. One of the celestial administrators of our local system, named Lucifer, led a revolt against divine authority. His rebellion rejected universal sovereignty, choosing self-interest and individual autonomy over divine order. The consequences: chaos across several worlds, including Urantia. This event triggered what the Urantia book calls a kind of cosmic quarantine. Earth was cut off from direct communication with the higher realms, severed from its normal channels of spiritual support. Does this sound familiar? It mirrors the Judeo-Christian story of the fall, Lucifer's rebellion, and his influence over humanity. But the Urantia book takes a different view. It doesn't frame this rebellion as an eternal war between good and evil, but as a temporary disruption and evolutionary error that will in time be corrected. And in the meantime, it says it's up to us, humanity, to continue our spiritual evolution through moral choices, intellectual growth, and above all, love. Each of us, it says, is accompanied by a fragment of God called a thought adjuster, a divine presence that guides us toward higher consciousness, helping us align with the will of the Supreme. This universe in the book's vision is not chaotic. It is not abandoned. It is governed by a celestial hierarchy, a divine administration filled with spiritual beings who shepherd creation. Among these beings are the Ancients of Days, rulers of the super-universes, incarnations of divine justice and wisdom. Creator sons, such as Michael of Nebadon, the spiritual identity of Jesus Christ, responsible for creating and nurturing entire systems of inhabited planets. Melchizedeks, cosmic educators and spiritual instructors sent to emerging civilizations. Seraphim, spiritual guardians assigned to individual souls, guiding them through the challenges of earthly life. Each of these orders plays a role in the spiritual ecosystem of existence. And according to the Urantia book, every human being has a place in this cosmic order. No soul is an accident. No life is wasted. Our journey doesn't end with death. It simply continues unfolding through higher dimensions and more refined realities. The soul moves forward, ascending through various worlds of instruction and transformation until it reaches union with the Supreme Being, a vision that mirrors many esoteric and religious philosophies. In Hermeticism, There is the path of the initiate, a step-by-step ascension through the layers of consciousness. In Buddhism, the soul traverses lifetimes in pursuit of enlightenment. And in the Urantia book, a similar idea emerges but with exquisite detail. The individual passes through specific stages, learning at every level, evolving with purpose and design until they become perfected spiritual beings. So what does this say about humanity? If the universe truly has order, intention, and structure, where do we fit in? According to the Urantia book, humanity is still in its infancy. We are the children of a cosmic civilization still finding our footing. Like a young species just learning to walk, we make mistakes. We fall, we hurt each other. But growth is not only possible, it's destined. The great question is, are we ready to evolve? The book suggests that our collective progress depends on our ability to transcend selfishness, ignorance, and materialism. As more individuals awaken to their true identity, as more people choose compassion over conflict, understanding over division, the link with the higher worlds will begin to restore itself. And in time, humanity will return to its rightful place in the grand cosmic family. If humanity is destined for spiritual growth and cosmic citizenship, what holds us back? According to the Urantia book, the greatest obstacle isn't external, it's within us. What prevents us from reaching this next stage of spiritual evolution? The answer is both simple and profound. Our own free will. Unlike other civilizations that have already overcome their early struggles and matured into harmonious cosmic societies, humanity still wrestles with internal divisions, primitive desires, and resistance to greater truth. But there is hope. The Urantia book offers a powerful reminder. The transformation of the world begins not in governments or institutions, but within each individual soul. Deep within every person, it says, resides a fragment of the divine, a spark of infinite light known as the thought adjuster, that whispers the path to truth, love, and spiritual growth. And as each person awakens to that divine presence, choosing integrity over fear, compassion over cruelty, the entire civilization moves one step closer to a higher plane of existence. This is not mere poetry. It is a call to spiritual responsibility. If the Urantia book is correct, then the universe is not a lifeless expanse of galaxies. It is a living, breathing spiritual organism filled with purpose, order, and destiny. Our existence is no accident. We are participants in a divine drama of evolution, both physical and spiritual. Whether the Urantia book is a true revelation or an astonishing philosophical construction, one thing is certain: it invites us to rethink the very foundation of our worldview. And this vision becomes even more striking when we examine the figure at the heart of the book's final section, Jesus Christ. Across the ages, Jesus has remained one of the most enigmatic and influential figures in human history. For some, he is the Messiah, the Son of God, the Savior of the world. For others, a wise teacher whose message was reshaped or even manipulated by generations of religious institutions. But what if his story is far deeper, far more cosmic than any tradition has ever revealed? The Urantia book presents a biography of Jesus that challenges conventional theology and offers a profound reinterpretation of his mission, identity, and purpose in the universe. In the canonical Gospels, we meet Jesus, the preacher, the miracle worker, the crucified Redeemer, but much of his life remains in shadow. The scriptures say little about his childhood, his formative years, or the inner struggles of his identity. Many of his teachings have been buried under centuries of doctrine filtered through the lens of politics, fear, and power. The Urantia book, however, offers something astonishing: a full, detailed account of Jesus' life from his birth and childhood to his adolescence, his travels abroad, his personal growth, and the lesser-known years leading up to his public ministry. According to this narrative, Jesus was not merely an enlightened man or a prophet. He was Michael of Nebadon, a creator's son, one of the divine architects of the universe, who chose to incarnate as a human in order to fully understand his own creation. This is a profound shift from traditional Christian doctrine. While mainstream Christianity teaches that Jesus is the only Son of God, the Urantia book presents a universe populated with many creator sons, each responsible for developing and nurturing entire systems of worlds. Jesus, in this view, came to Earth not to establish a religion, but to fulfill a cosmic mission to live as one of us, not as an exalted deity above suffering, but as a man among men. He experienced love-loss confusion, friendship, joy, and pain, all so that he could rule not just with divine authority, but with human empathy. Only by embracing the full range of human experience, the Urantia book says, could he become a perfect sovereign over his domain. This interpretation echoes certain Gnostic traditions, where Christ is seen not primarily as a sacrifice for sin, but as a bringer of liberating knowledge. In texts like the Gospel of Thomas, Jesus is portrayed as an enlightened teacher whose goal was to awaken, not to atone. But unlike the Gnostics, who often believed Jesus was a spiritual being who only appeared to be human, the Urantia book insists he was fully divine and fully human, a perfect synthesis of creator and creation. One of the most fascinating parts of this expanded narrative is Jesus' childhood. The canonical Gospels tell us almost nothing, but here we read of a young boy asking profound questions, struggling with his unique role, and slowly growing into the realization of his divine identity. We learn of his relationship with Mary and Joseph, his curiosity about the world, and even his travels across foreign lands to Egypt, Mesopotamia, India. There, he encounters other cultures, beliefs, and spiritual teachings, all of which help shape his understanding before he returns to Galilee to begin his ministry. This vision echoes long-standing theories that Jesus may have studied Eastern philosophies or esoteric wisdom during his lost years. But in the Urantia book, these are not rumors, they are recorded experiences. So then comes the inevitable question: why hasn't this version of his story reached the mainstream? According to the Urantia book, after Jesus' resurrection, his message was quickly co-opted by those who sought to institutionalize his legacy. His teachings of personal connection with God, of inner transformation, and spiritual freedom were gradually replaced by hierarchical religion, rigid dogma, and a focus on his death rather than his life. Instead of being remembered as a cosmic teacher, he became a symbol of guilt and sacrifice. Even the crucifixion, according to the Urantia book, was not part of any divine plan. It was not a cosmic necessity, but a tragic consequence of human fear, ignorance, and political manipulation. Jesus didn't come to die. He came to live as an example, a beacon of what it means to align one's life with truth, love, and the indwelling spirit. His death, while deeply moving, was not required for humanity's salvation. What is required, the book says, is that we recognize the divine spark within ourselves and commit to the path of spiritual growth. Salvation, then, is not granted through blood or ritual, but through awakening, through union with the thought adjuster, that divine guide placed within each of us by the Creator. Jesus came to show us what it looks like to live in harmony with that inner presence, not to build temples in His name, but to remind us that God already lives within. If this account is true, then humanity has spent 2,000 years misunderstanding the message. Jesus never asked to be worshipped as a martyr. He came to be seen as a brother, a teacher, a guide, one who walked before us to show the way. If Jesus came not to build a religion, but to awaken our divine potential, then the implications are vast. What if the same holds true for everything we've been taught about science, religion, and the very structure of the universe? According to the Urantia book, Jesus didn't come to establish churches' rituals or institutional worship. He came to do something far more personal and profound: to awaken humanity to its own inner divinity. His mission wasn't to be idolized, but to serve as a living guide and older brother on the path towards spiritual maturity. Still, the question remains. What if this entire narrative, the cosmology, the celestial beings, the redefined image of Jesus, is simply fiction? How can we know whether the Urantia book is an authentic revelation or just a brilliantly constructed philosophical manuscript? Perhaps the answer isn't in its origin, but in its impact. Unlike traditional scriptures that often demand unwavering belief, the Urantia book extends an open hand. It does not insist, it invites. It calls readers not to surrender their reason, but to question, reflect, and experience truth firsthand. It doesn't seek submission, it seeks awakening. It claims that true spiritual enlightenment cannot be handed down from authority, but must be discovered through personal connection with the divine. Whether you see it as a divine message or an intellectual masterpiece, one thing is clear. It offers a vision of Jesus and the universe that is both fascinating and transformational. In this vision, Jesus is not a remote savior hanging on a cross, but a living example of what we can become. The cross in this context is not the end of the story. It is a moment within a much larger narrative, a narrative that includes each of us. Because if Jesus was truly a creator son, then his purpose was never to make us passive worshipers, but to help us grow into the same light he embodied. This reimagining of Christ is only one facet of a book that challenges not just religion, but also science. To modern science, which often sees the cosmos as a cold chain of random events, the Urantia book offers a direct challenge. The universe is not chaotic, it is intentional. There is a spiritual and mathematical order underpinning every star, every atom, every conscious being. It describes a divinely coordinated cosmos where galaxies and civilizations move according to a higher design guided by spiritual intelligences who oversee the evolution of life across time and space. But if it challenges science, it also confronts the core of traditional religion. The Urantia book rejects ideas like original sin, and it denies that sacrifice is necessary for salvation. It proposes a stunning alternative that each person carries a fragment of God within them, and that spiritual evolution is a continuous individual process, one rooted in inner growth and the pursuit of truth, not obedience to dogma. This vision radically transforms how we view both life and death. If the book is correct, death is not the end, it is a transition. The soul awakens in another realm, continuing its ascent toward divine perfection. The afterlife isn't a reward or punishment, it's a stage in a much longer journey of evolution. A path echoing ancient esoteric traditions from the Hindu belief in soul transmigration to Hermetic concepts of ascension through planes of consciousness. But while these traditions speak in poetic metaphors, the Urantia book lays out this process with stunning precision. It describes almost like a manual the exact mechanisms by which consciousness evolves, how souls pass through levels of training, experience, and refinement until they become one with the source. Yet, if all of this is so profound, why haven't more people heard of it? Why hasn't the Urantia book become a widely accepted spiritual text like the Bible, the Quran, or the Vedas? The answer may lie in what it doesn't offer. Unlike organized religions, the Urantia book provides no institution, no hierarchy, no clergy. There are no temples to enter, no titles to claim. It teaches that true spiritual knowledge is accessed from within, that the divine is not mediated by rituals or priests but discovered in the quiet space of personal development. This idea is liberating for the soul, but threatening to institutions. Religions often depend on intermediaries, leaders' rules, and tradition. But the Urantia book dismantles the need for any of it. It says, you already have what you need. The divine lives inside you, and no one else can take you there but yourself. This message of inner sovereignty is powerful and disruptive. Even more radical is its view of civilizational evolution. According to the book, every inhabited world passes through cycles of spiritual darkness and awakening. Civilizations rise, fall, and rise again. Earth, it says, is still in a relatively early stage, largely due to its historical isolation following the Lucifer Rebellion. This cosmic rebellion, as previously discussed, cut Earth off from direct spiritual communication. It left humanity groping in the dark, confused, fragmented, lost. This, the book suggests, is why our world feels so chaotic, why our spiritual progress is slow, but also why there is hope. Because this state is not permanent, humanity is not forsaken. It is preparing for a breakthrough. If the Urantia book is true, we are now living through a critical transitional era, a moment in time where humanity teeters between self-destruction and spiritual evolution. The choices we make now as individuals and as a species will determine whether we collapse under the weight of our own ego or ascend toward the light of collective awakening. Progress, it insists, doesn't come from science or technology alone. It comes from the elevation of consciousness, the awakening of the soul. And yet, even as this vision inspires some others, remain skeptical. One of the greatest barriers to accepting the book is its mysterious origin. After all, how can we trust a text said to be channeled through an anonymous man without any clear proof? To skeptics, the Urantia book is nothing more than an elaborate literary creation, perhaps the work of a secretive group of intellectuals experimenting with spiritual ideas. But for those who read deeply and reflect, something extraordinary happens. They find a coherence, a clarity, and a depth of insight that defies easy explanation. They speak of a shift in perception, a feeling that the universe is more alive, more connected, and more purposeful than they ever imagined. And maybe that's the real gift of this book. Not that it answers every question, but that it awakens new ones. It doesn't ask you to believe, it challenges you to think, to explore, to stretch the boundaries of what you thought was possible. The significance of the Urantia book goes far beyond cosmology, theology, or even philosophy. At its core, it is an invitation to expand your consciousness and question the paradigms you've inherited. It breaks through the frameworks of both religion and science and offers something few texts dare: to a new path. A path for those who are no longer satisfied with borrowed beliefs, for those who seek to experience truth directly. If it is genuine, we may be standing before one of the most important revelations in human history, a document that could completely redefine our understanding of the universe and our place within it. If it is not, it still stands as one of the most sophisticated and spiritually ambitious works ever created. In the end, the Urantia book may not be defined by the answers it gives, but by the questions it dares us to ask. And perhaps its greatest message is this: humanity is just beginning its cosmic journey. There is more ahead, much more. So the only question that remains is, are we ready to receive it? And what about you? Do you believe this book contains truths too vast for the world to accept? Or do you see it as a bold philosophical myth? Let's open this conversation. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Because in the end, knowledge only has power when it is shared.